All right. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Design and Dialogue, and a very special one. Jaime, thanks so much for joining us this morning. Bit of a correction. Are you in Madrid or Valencia?
Well, I live in Valencia, but I'm in Madrid at the moment. I just arrived to Madrid. Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay. Excellent. Excellent. So how are you?
Good. Actually, very good. Very good. No, I'm perfect. Actually, it's been a very how would I say, like, it's been a very interesting week. Actually, like the beginning of the week started very well. I was like last week in Barcelona doing some lithography.
Mm-hmm.
And actually working, with a lot of new projects and stuff. So it's been very good, exciting. Painting a lot lately. I'm painting a lot. I'm like maybe because I've been so much home, I had the time to really paint and so on. Because our life, like traveling a lot and all that, it's very hard. I think if you have to go to the studio to paint, it's almost impossible. So I'm doing that a lot lately. Yeah, very much. So good.
Excellent. Excellent. So just to kind of also clarify, your home is in Valencia, and that's also
my home is in Valencia.
Okay. Yeah. That also your studio, your main studio?
Yeah, like the main studio. Well, we have two studios. One it's in Italy, so it's been there since already like the year 2000. So it's been like more than 20 years. That the practice it's in Italy, and at the same time we have a studio in Valencia, which is our second studio. And I live there. Originally, I've born in Madrid, so I'm actually from Madrid, and today I'm visiting Madrid. So yeah, but basically I live in Valencia most of the time. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And so you made the decision to work from home quite a long time ago, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, I have a studio. It's separated, but it's very near. It's like 5 minutes walk. So it's very easy, but it's separate spaces. Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so the studio is actually separate from home.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, thank God, because if not, anyway, my house looks like a studio anyway.
Yeah.
I actually have some images there that we can see it, so we can actually talk about that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I want to take this. I want to take this hour to kind of really dig into your practice and
absolutely,
and try to understand how. Essentially how, right? How it's all possible. You're incredibly prolific and you have the sense of being ubiquitous, right? Being everywhere all at once and working on so many different projects across so many different ranges of media and at so many different scales, from artwork to industrial design, furniture, lighting, sculpture, installations, museum exhibitions, etc. And so the impression I think that Jaime Hayon gives to the world is that it's seemingly very easy.
Yeah. It looks easy, right?
It looks really easy. It seems to kind of flow from your fingertips to the page, and from the page,
like magic and things
like magic.
Right?
And from the pages of your sketchbooks, right, quite literally onto a myriad of products, right, ranging from fashion to ceramics, et cetera, et cetera. So that's I think what the world sort of wants to know, or at least I'm very curious about, is how does all of that translate, and how is it, what's that process like?
Yeah, well, I'm actually someone that doesn't wait very much about having a commission or anything like that. I'm kind of like I'm someone that it's all the time constantly drawing and testing ideas and very curious about a lot of things, and I have the luck to actually be very passionate about this profession, and I never try to categorize it in any kind of box. I just try to go from one discipline to another, thinking that everything is one thing. Yeah, I think that concept is actually the most important one, because like when you've got a lot of projects like we do in the studio, and I'm like a radio, I switch channel all the time, and it's a new project and it's very complicated, and it can be extremely delicate to make all these things work. The good part of that is that I think it's all a unit. I try to use the energy I put, for example, to design an hotel. If I have to do the lighting, then I'm thinking, well, perfect. I've got the power to make this lighting something unique, but I can also eventually sell it as an addition. Or if I need to do an artwork, maybe this sculpture works really well in the plaza, or it's always like a back and forth experimentation with all the different projects. So I've always thought that every discipline I touch and everything I live is actually interrelated. So it's easier to actually make this happen. But my process is really simple: drawing and discussing with the team, making some prototypes of stuff. Sometimes working with the crafts very much, I would say, and try to achieve something that is a storytelling, that has something special to say. Yeah. So
yeah, of course.
yeah.
I mean, this is in a lot of ways is a very traditional way of working. But
It is.
the result I think is one that feels quite fun, quite playful, quite youthful, and I guess I want to get into how that expresses itself in a lot of different ways. So we have some images to look at.
Yeah, yeah.
A lot.
A lot. You
And
can put them on, and
yeah,
and
and
we can discuss
they're
them a little bit.
they're kind of randomly organized, if I'm not mistaken. So we can.
It's totally random, because it was really hard to select the work. But if you want to share those, we can discuss a little bit about, we can see a lot of things about them.
Sure. So maybe
Yeah,
before we jump into that, though, I wanted to ask one more sort of fundamental question about
yeah,
how you present a kind of persona as Jaime Hayon, but then also the studio as Hayon's studio, and
mhm.
and maybe how you began in is your studio in Treviso? Is that right?
In Treviso, yeah.
Treviso.
The one in
How
Italy
you
is in
began in
Treviso, yeah.
Treviso 20 years ago. So
Yeah.
can you just introduce us to how the studio became structured the way it is?
Yeah. Well, it was really curious, because I went to Treviso because I was like working with this place called the Fabrica, yeah, like many years ago, actually, when it started, this place that Oliviero Toscani did together with the Benetton Foundation. Yeah.
Right.
So I went there after finishing my studies, and I was really curious, because I became the head of the design in this foundation. Yeah. And what happened is that in the afternoons I started to work on my own work. I never thought I could make I could make a living out of it, actually. And it was really long time ago. So I was like mainly I was a manager, actually. I was the design director. I was really young, and then I started to work in the afternoons, and then it became a reality. Like, people started to like the work, make some exhibitions about that work, and I started to create a structure, with some very good people that work with me, and we started very little. We're still pretty little, but the work is much bigger than ever. So I believe I have a team that is very much like a family, where everyone is very talented, and they have a lot of strength, to elaborate the things I want to do together. So I think it's like, so we started in Treviso, and then after Treviso, I traveled around the world a little bit. I was in Barcelona for a while, and I went to New York for a while as well, in London, and then I moved to Valencia, which is, I found like this sort of Mediterranean paradise, in which I thought I could live there. Perfect life, simplicity, and it's what I have right now. It's like a pause to all the traveling I do. And so our studios are in Treviso and Valencia, and they interact in between them. One is very technical. The one in Italy is very technical, and we have all the scales around the office, which can do anything you want. So it's like paradise for production. And then in Valencia, there's also a tradition of like, especially furniture making and a lot of crafts as well. So this combination for me makes it into a very easy way to work. Yeah. So, and this is actually why I moved there at the end. Because it was really hard for me to make this work in London in the way I wanted to make it. So I moved from London about 11 years ago. And so that's the time I've been in Valencia. And that's it. And the team works very strongly. Everyone has projects, and we combine, and we have meetings. I hardly go to the office, so I'm like a phantom. I'm always somewhere. I work in bars. I don't even go to my house. It's like really crazy. I work everywhere. I stay a lot home as well to work, and you have some images of my house as well, where I work, and I share it on Instagram a lot of times, where I'm like drawing or doing. So yeah, this is what it is about.
Okay, that's awesome. Let's jump into the work here.
Absolutely.
I'm going to be presenting, so you just help guide me a little bit, Jaime, if you can.
Don't worry, man. This is random. Just go for it.
Okay.
If you go to the first image there, like, I can show you a little bit. I just selected, we selected these images in a very random way, but this shows a little bit what it's my reality every day, which is pretty much like having sketchbooks all over the place, and it's really funny, but it's always been very real for me to have inspiration nearby my sketchbooks and pencils all over the place, and in this way, I've been always like a child, I'm really free. I like to draw, and I've got tons of these sketchbooks. If you pass it, I have a lot of sketchbooks and objects all over the place, and pencils all over the place in my house. They're all over. So if you have an idea, just draw. It can be in the kitchen, it can be in the living room, it can be anywhere. If you go to the next image, for instance, you can see a little bit of the table that I work in general on the right. I've got a lot of artifacts all the time, and they're not necessarily things that I made. Like, for example, you have a vase there that I made with some Italian company called Bosa, but I've got a lot of artifacts I like, from classic things to things I find in markets and stuff like that. In the left-hand side is just to show you how much I love pencils. How many sketchbooks I have is sick, because I have more than 350 or something like that, and they're packed.
Are you organized sketchbooks by project or by discipline, or are they?
No. They're a mess. They're a mess. It's like completely. It's like a mess. I have one in front of me right now, so it's like I can show you one page. I can be in this page, and then right after, like there's a completely different thing. It's like, it's really like there's no order. There's maybe a little order in which sometimes they have only artistic drawings, and some other sketchbooks, because of the refinement of the paper, they're good for sketching, for making sketches which are more industrial based. So sometimes, once in a while, you will see, like, I don't know, like here, for example, I was designing a bathroom, the console, and so this is typical design drawing. So in between my drawings, you can find all kinds of different things, and a lot of, for example, if I have a conversation on the phone, this is what I do.
Yeah.
which is like, what the hell is that?
So Jaime, how are you? I mean, how do you organize all of this work? Obviously, you're very active on IG, and I love following your Instagram, because I really get a window into your world. In fact, I think I know the best cafes to eat at in Valencia already.
Now good.
But at the same time, I'm wondering, if you're sketching so freely and mixing all of the different works together, do you is someone helping you organize your creative process?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I'm a little bit of a mess, but we try to make in that mess a little bit of order, because what happens a lot of times is, like, I go back to the drawings. As I said, they were done freely. And so many times I start to make a chair, but I don't have the commission for that chair, for instance. And suddenly, like, I've got a company, like, I don't know, like Casina or Fritz Hansen or whatever. They say, I want to have a table from you, or I want to have a chair. What's your idea? I'm like, oh. And then I'm thinking, like, I made that drawing. I remember I made that drawing. I have a really photographic memory of that, So, but I try to kind of archive them, in a nice way, So, in that cabinet you have there, the yellow one, it's full of sketchbooks that have actually little post-its, which said the year and the project and what it is about. So that's typical.
Well, let's talk about that. You brought up a good point. When companies contact you, I'm really curious, because you're working with such a range of companies, from heritage brands like Baccarat, right, to contemporary brands. And I mean, of course, some of the most venerable, like Casina, like Fritz Hansen. So what's that process like when brands are contacting you? Are they offering you a brief, or are they simply asking for a product? Can you give us a sense of how that works?
There's many ways in which this happens, but in general, the good thing is, like, because I don't focus only on industrial design and I do the other disciplines as we spoke. The good thing is, like, I work with these companies that are, in my opinion, I work for the best companies there. I'm super happy with them, because they're like family to me. Yeah. And I have a dialogue which is very real. We talk about creativity. We know each other for so many years already, so we don't have to demonstrate anything. It's just like, you just go for the work, and you're really straightforward to it. It is clear that a design director might come with a brief to me, but I'm like anti-brief number one. Like, I'm a disaster. Because, like, I'm not into briefs. I mean, I'm not really. I think briefs are done to actually be destroyed. But it's okay. I respect that they carry a lot of good information, and so. But I love the things like, for instance, when somebody says, "Hey, you know what? We love to do a chair you think about it and come up with something. We love to do a lamp, come up with a concept, with a story. And I like this freedom. I like freedom a lot. And I think the best projects I've made, they started with freedom, with like an open brief, with the dialogue in between us. It's a dialogue at the end of the day. And I'm sure it's happening to you, Stephen, with the work you do. It happens that it's like you get a dialogue, you feel comfortable with the company. And also something I learned, probably not from my team, neither from the experience, but I've learned probably from Jasper Morrison. It's not, you got to go back to your work and look at it again and make an evolution of it, which is a great idea, because like you have beautiful products that can decline into another product that could be good. So in design, this is how it works. Within the arts, I just work very free, and I end up coming up with something, with a sculpture, or with like a silk screen, or with a lithograph, and there's always events like exhibitions and things. So then I try to put a theme, out of that. Yeah. So it's very different. Yeah, very different way.
So many questions coming up right now. I mean, I'm looking at this product, for example, and I'm thinking.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about the not just your own arc in relation to what you do, and the way that you seemingly work without constraints, but then also the arc of the brands that you're working with. Are you actively considering how your work fits into their collection in some way?
No, of course. I mean, it's funny you said that, because like I think this is a really it's a very peculiar question, actually, because some people think you might fit for a company or not. When I started, for example, with Fritz Hansen, they thought, I was doing a green chicken rocking chair, for museums. So it was like, how's this guy's going to do something for Fritz Hansen if he's doing the green chicken rocking chair? Excuse me, how does it work? Because Fritz Hansen, everyone knows what it is about. It's pretty, Danish and very straightforward. Very much about design and
one of the most
longevity.
beautiful collections in the history of design.
Exactly. So what happens with that is, there you go. So it's like a big history, with Jacobsen and Paul Kelholm and everything. And a lot of Danish people work with them. So, I'm from the South. I'm in a hot weather. I don't know about Scandinavia that much. We live outside. We don't live inside. So I would be the last one in the planet to actually be called to work for Fritz Hansen. But my work fitted perfectly with Fritz Hansen. Actually, I'm one of their players since a decade. And some of the work, it's already in the archives or the collections. Been there since already, like, as I said, more than 10 years. So, and we have an incredible relationship. So this is why I think this is one of the products actually in an hotel in Madrid I designed. And, this is the roll chair, for instance. It was one of the first pieces I designed for them, and it worked extremely well, still works very well. So, it's very hard to say you fit for that company or not. What I try to do, it's always try to make a Jaime thing, understanding who I have in front. So I don't mind if I have to do a Yadro figurine or a Baccarat crystal. It will still be Baccarat, and it will still be any company I work for. At the same time, it will still have my trace. I will express myself in the way that the balance will be correct. It's like cooking with another chef. Yeah. You got to do it right. You got to put your stuff, but you got to get those. So you got to be part of the restaurant, this is the way.
That analogy is pretty interesting, right? Because if you're the chef and you have a restaurant that has a kind of theme or a way of making things, a way of making food, then you have to kind of operate within those codes, I guess. And with Fritz Hansen, what you've managed to do successfully is the sculptural form, right? So if we're looking at the row chair here, and we consider the predecessor to this, the egg chair, let's say, by Arne Jacobsen,
exactly
where the two meet is the sculptural form. But Jaime, I mean, are we to believe that Fritz Hansen just called you one day and said, "Hey, make a chair for us"? Or how did that? How did you come to, if you're the worst possible designer for Fritz Hansen, how did you manage that relationship?
Well, it was really interesting because I had a friend. Well, I have this friend from Iceland, and she worked for so many years for IKEA, and then she started to work for Fritz Hansen. And she actually said my work fit really well, and she had a vision about it, and she's right. She's right. Now I know she's right, because like at the end of the day, the Danish design is also very sculptural and very storytelling design. If you look at the work of Finn Juhl, or you work the work of Arne Jacobsen, and all the forms the Danish did with the upholstery and everything, they are very sculptural, and I have this sense of form, and which actually works a lot with light, with lightness, with round forms, with all that, and they actually felt this worked really well. They said yes, it has the DNA that we're missing. Also, I started to introduce new colors and things. So at the end of the day, it's like it happened very naturally. I made my first sofa. They loved it. It went really well in the market. Then I got a new project, and so on and so on and so on, until now that we've done a lot of things together, in these catalogs. So it's interesting. Also, I've done their shops in many places, like in Beijing. I've done their shop in China, in like Singapore, in Taiwan, in many places. Yeah. And in Thailand is the last one I did. So
tell me, when you work with such a historic brand, are you simply looking to bring your kind of Jaime universe to it, or is there something to do with looking at the future? I mean, is there anything to do with innovation in projects like this for you?
No, absolutely. I mean, like, the first thing I do is like, I try to look at their tradition, and I like, I want to look at everything that's surrounding the company's, heritage. So I can understand a little bit the story and what's missing, like, for example, with Baccarat, when I work with them, they use a technique. I'm always observing, like, for example, I always look at techniques they try, but they didn't succeed, or like things they left behind, or, I love this kind of story, because it's like, I love when you can reach something very good with something that fuck up in the past. You know what I mean? Yeah, because you're like, kind of like, why you didn't do that? Like, for example, in Baccarat, like, they didn't use so much the double crystal because it's very expensive, to cut the crystal in two colors. Yeah, you have a red, and then inside you have another color. So I love to try things that people are left behind, but I always try to have something that will bring up something new to it. Something. Of course, it has to look at the future. It has to look at the present. It has to look at how the company will be seen. With Ant Tradition, for example, I work very heavy, to make pieces that will make a consistent collection with the rest of the designers, for instance. Yeah. So yeah. Yeah.
So I mean, we can also talk about the range of scales that you're operating at, and the way that you seamlessly move between, let's say, furniture and installation, or in this case, for Swarovski, a
carousel. Yeah, this is a crazy.
Yeah,
carousel.
And so,
this is a crazy one.
Yeah. I'm curious about the kind of presentation that you might have given to Nadia, to kind of, I mean, how do you convince a brand like Swarovski to make something at this scale?
Actually, it's not even. It's not my idea. It's not my idea. It's Swarovski's idea. I just made it in that way. Swarovski has a place in Vatins where they're from, which is like a museum. They have installations from Yayoi Kusama, from like big artists all over the world. And this is an art project, fully art project. They just gave me, they have Sol Louis, they have a lot of people, that made installations in there. And it's a beautiful space in the mountains. And they said to me, hey, we think you could make a great carousel in it. But then obviously I started from zero with a carousel. And it doesn't need it to have the Swarovski pieces, but I thought they fit really well, in that kind of glamorous, kind of fun, joyful element. Very complicated project, very dreamful. As you said before, it looks like it's easy to do this, but this is like a hell of a job. It's a lot of sculptures put together. It's a lot of details in it. It has to work. It has heating in it because it's in the mountains, so it needs to work perfectly. It's been an exploration, but this is the kind of project I love, actually, because it mixes up the graphics, the artwork I have, the brain I use. I use my brain in the right way when I do something like this, because it comes from drawing to reality. It's like perfect, but it has a lot of technicity. This is why I work with my team, to try to achieve. And this is why I said they're very good, the people I have around me, because we all discuss to make these the best thing. Actually, the quality point of view, it's always like the most important for us, for everyone that works with me. And we're really picky with that. And we're so picky that people freak out how picky we are. And at the end of the day, we can make this immense thing, but be so beautifully done, and I love that because,
No, no, no. I mean, I was just going to comment that I've seen very little in terms of process, in terms of your
Yeah,
way of working. I mean, we go from the sketchbooks, which are, you've shown quite a lot, like your
yeah,
painting,
yeah,
to a
yeah.
piece like this. And I guess we're curious about all of the steps in between. How long, for example, would you and your team work on a project like this for Swarovski?
I think this was like, I'm not really sure right now, but this is like something like not so long actually, maybe 7, 8 months or something. But
Wow.
it took a while. It was very straightforward. I mean, we were, we sort of like deconstructed into small objects and into a lot of solutions. You know, like that one, for example, in Korea, is like a super complicated project, and it took about a year. And online, we didn't do it. We didn't do it in real. I haven't seen it,
Yeah,
yet.
yeah. That's
And
what we were talking recently about the fact that you haven't been to Korea to actually see this.
no, I haven't seen it. I haven't seen it, and it's been visited there's been more than 1 million people like going into that place. It's crazy because it's really hot right now in Korea, like this spot.
Hmm.
So it's very complicated. Like it's a garden, and it has a museum inside, and it has sculptures, and it has a book collection, for kids, and a park, and it's super complicated. It's really big, and it has a lot of details of everything, obviously, and safety issues and many things. um I don't
And
know how we did it.
what is it called, and where is it? It's called Hyundai Mocha Garden, but where is it located?
It's located in Seoul, in Seoul. Yeah, yeah.
And
And
it's
so it's, yeah.
hmm. And what was the brief in this case, or what kind
Well,
of?
here it came from the Hyundai, the Hyundai company.
Mhm.
They actually, well, it's like Samsung and other companies in Korea. They own a lot of different type of works, type of businesses. So one of them is like they have this museum for children called the Mocha, which is like a very beautiful illustration and art museum for kids, but not only for kids, also for kids and family. I mean, they have a lot of incredible illustrators that go there and artists that show books and showcase extremely high end, graphics. This was a little bit of an extension to that, in a new platform they created, like a really, really big new structure they built. So, we actually made these into 3 steps, to be complementary to the museum,
Mhm.
so it's an extension to the children's museum, actually.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's and it was freestyle. It's like, hey, do us something that we will. Yeah, they wanted a garden, they wanted a playground, and they wanted a place for showing art. That's what we did, but we
Right.
did it in our way,
Hmm.
in our way. Yeah,
So
yeah,
this,
yeah,
I mean, clearly, like you've created this kind of Jaime Hayon universe, and you're
mm.
drawing from that in each one of these projects. And I guess I wonder if in one way that becomes a limitation, and that is it a case where clients come to you and always want something playful, always want something colorful, always want to kind of draw from
Mm.
that universe, or do you have the opportunity to? I mean, here's a really good example of you being more restrained, for example.
Yeah, well, it's what I told you before. It depends who I have in front. Like for example, but there's also two Jaimes. Like on one side, I'm a very technical person. For this kind of chair, I made like so many drawings to make it into the right price, into the right beauty that I wanted. So I'm really picky. Also, like I can be a very crazy, precise industrial designer. With a lot of solutions. Thinking about Japanese assembly, talking with the carpenter forever to understand, where can we get the. So on one hand, I could be talking cultural project with my client, like, so they don't necessarily need the color, or they don't necessarily need the craziness of an art project like the other one. So I'm this kind of guy, that goes from one thing to the other. It's like, if I went to an exhibition of Le Corbusier like about like 3 weeks ago, and
Mm.
I was like, this is a little bit what I'm doing, like the guy does, he did architecture, he was a painter, like he did really crazy sculptures. And I'm sure he anyway was so functional, but then he could go nuts and make these paintings that nobody understands still.
Yeah.
So
Hmm.
it's not, I didn't invent anything, I didn't invent the wheel there. It's like very, I'm just like a guy that can do a lot of stuff in different ways, because I've got my concepts very clear, what I like. I'm precise. I can, get into the imagination, try to bring that imagination to something that could be anything. I think I could do anything. There's no problem, you know.
Are you
No, yeah.
actively designing everything, Jaime, or are other members of your team contributing and offering you sketches, etc.?
Well, they are like, it's hard because I have a very, I mean, if it's something about technicity, I'm all the time, you know, I have proposals from everyone, you know, in the studio, which is great, you know, and also in a lot of solutions, the team can do amazing things. I mean, they're very professional in that way. But a lot of times I'm the one like saying at least the direction, yeah, like, hey, why don't we go to that direction? And then they start to come up with some thoughts, and then from there we take it in a very high level of technicity. I think this is actually our secret weapon, is that we're very good technically, you know. Yeah, it's but so many times I do what you see there, you know, like I go to the factory and work directly with the artisan, you know, like this piece, for example, is super crazy, you know, because you know, I made it a long time ago for this company called Cecotti in Cecotti in Italy. And it's, for example, this chair was hardly done in the studio, it was more done in the atelier, you know, uniting the bones together to make this piece, which has 22 pieces of wood, you know. So, you know, sometimes this is actually what I like. I find this a luxury, you know, to be able to go to the artisans to discuss with them. Yeah.
Yeah, of course, of course. It's quite a privileged position. I mean, when I
It
look
is.
at a piece like this, I wonder about, we can talk a little bit about aesthetics here, but I wonder about the relationship of your work to other Spanish designers in history. Of course, you know, we see Gaudi and some references to Spanish surrealism. So how important is that in terms of the history and you building upon those kinds of traditions?
Well, it's funny because, like, I mean, I'm Spanish, but the funny thing is, like, I sometimes feel I've been possessed by some, you know, like maybe I went to the Picasso's museum and like he did some voodoo or something, you know, like, because I draw and I don't know why I'm drawing these things, so I don't know, but I'm just drawing without any preparation, any works. So, but to me, obviously, the Dali, the Gaudi work, you know, all the work that is related, but not only Spanish, but I love that kind of work. You know, it feels very comfortable. It feels very near to me. I, like, for some reason, I don't know. There's something really beautiful about the way they use proportions, aesthetics, and everything. And it's probably the fact that nature, which I'm also in love with, you know, was also very important for those architects, and, you know, and that tradition. You know, the nature is also part of everything. Yeah. For me, a lot of the projects start with the idea that nature can give us a lot of the solutions to things. So if you see, like, the chair you saw before, the Cecotti one, it's pretty much like an elastic solution. If you take a rudder and you go like that, it does that kind of thing. It's like a bone. It's something very organic. If you take a chair like that, like you see now, like this is the one I did for BD Barcelona, which, by the way, actually made a lot of the additions for Gaudi and Dali, you know, so it's really interesting. And you know them really well.
Yeah.
You know them really well. You've done a really nice chair for them, and I've seen really good things.
Thank you.
So, you know, yeah. So with them, you know, they love sculptural things, and for example, this chair was really fun. But I started with, like, the dinosaur shape. You know, when I started to make this. Really
I was going to ask you about this idea of anthropomorphism and the way that some of your products actually look like the body and communicate parts of the body. So there's something, you know, I'm sure you've heard this comparison before, but there's something about the approach that Mariscal was giving some years back. What's your relationship to Mariscal? Are you friends, or have you worked together?
Well, I know him. Yeah, obviously I know him. I don't know him so well, but I really like him. I think he's a really nice designer and artist. You know, he has a lot of strength. But you know, my inspiration doesn't really go through that line. You know, it's more like I'm trying every time. For example, when I did this chair with these tables on the right, you know, it's more like a storytelling thought. I think the storytelling is really important. It's like the hook you saw before, you know, for Fritz Hansen with the smile. You know, this is like me trying to say to people, remember to smile, you know, every time you come home and you get out of the house, you know. And this table, for me, it's like you have a minimalistic, you know, interior. And I call this one the Explorer, because, like, it just landed into your, you know, and if you look at the Explorer, you know, that go into, you know, I call it Explorer tables, and Explorer, it has two meanings. It's like the spaceship that goes into Mars and lands, with 3 legs. It feels a little bit like a spaceship, yeah. So this starts with that, and also starts with the idea of less use. So there's 2 concepts. It's like volumes, a little bit like Brancusi, try to make volumes put together, stacked together. Like the latest addition to that table is the one on the left, excuse me, like the image before. It's like a stack of different volumes. But what happens is like one is lacquered and the other one is matte, and the other one does this round form like a flower, which makes the very beautiful surface appear. So it's all about also opticity, about weight, very different. So I'm also exploring a lot of the materials. In the image you're putting next, for instance, which is also for BD Barcelona, it's exploring the craftsmanship of a really, really simple vase, which you can find everywhere, the typical terracotta vase, which is really cheap. I try to give it a new dignity, and it's something I do quite a lot. So this is part of my expression. It's like, let's bring up a technique into somewhere else. Why don't we do that? So this is the way I observe things. Very different to the next one, for instance, which is product for and tradition, which is just a really simple, lamp, doesn't have anything. It's very light and it's more democratic. It's not so expensive. It has batteries in it and you can just plug it and, very simple. So, but this one is called Zeta Go because the Zeta is like, in Spanish, it's like a mushroom. And it's like Zeta Go, it's like mushroom and you go, you go with your mushroom.
But with so many, it's incredible with so many different projects and products. Each time you're asked to come up with a new lamp or come up with a new chair or come up with a new table. Where is that inspiration coming from? What is the starting point? Is it always back to the sketchbook and kind of the Jaime Hayon universe, or are you really looking at other, sources of inspiration?
I observe a lot of things, but a lot of my inspiration, as I said, comes from nature. It's like, you can see like this is a mushroom, yeah, and that's like 2 penguins going like that because I call it the cat chair. Basically, it's a chair embracing you. This is how this chair started, with that image. So many times, I think at the end of the day, I get inspired by communicate. I try to communicate. I get inspired by nature, by things around me. It could be architecture. It could be, it could be something more freestyle. It doesn't need to have one direction, like really. Like, for example, when I did these vases you see here, I was inspired. I went to the British Museum and I saw these amphors from the Egyptians. They used to put the cats and the dogs inside, when they were dead, so the ashes. And they were the little tombs for the Egyptians, and I was already like really inspired about them. And I said, yeah, that's cool. Why don't I mix that with like, it looks like a bicycle or it looks like a, so it's like a crazy surreal thing.
Yeah.
While, for example, the next one you have, the next image talks about.
I want to talk a little bit about ceramics.
You want to talk about this?
You've done so much work in ceramics, and I've heard you say that you began in ceramics because it was cheap, because it was available and
it was cheap.
Yeah, accessible, I guess, in a way, right? And so
absolutely,
yeah. I've seen, ceramics have kind of exploded, not just the kind of studio art tradition, but also addition ceramics and design. There's some really beautiful work coming out of South Africa recently, all over the world, right? There are artists working in ceramics again, and it seems to be at the forefront of design. And so I wonder what it means to you. What's really the appeal of working so much in ceramics?
Well, you said the word. For me, ceramics at the beginning was like, it's a very cheap material that can look very expensive, it is, because like if you, for example, use like gold on top of it, it will look like it's bronze, but it's not. It's ceramic. And at the end, it's just water and earth. And, and if you're doing porcelain, it has a little bit of quartz and kaolin and whatever. But it's the ceramic. It's like, okay, the best example I would say ceramics like rice. Yeah, rice, you have it all over the world. Yeah, and it's very different. You have the paella in Spain, you have the sushi in Japan. Yeah, you have loads of different type of rice, the risotto in Italy. Yeah, so you've got plenty. So every country speaks about the rice. Every country speaks about their ceramics. Yeah, ceramics has traditions in many countries, in England, in Delft, in Holland, in China, in Shenzhen, in Japan, in Ishikawa, everywhere you have a language with porcelain or ceramic, which is different. And this is fascinating So it's like a never-ending process, even if you know a lot about it, and you can do a vase like this one, for example, made in Portugal, Vista Alegre, yeah? Their porcelain, which is from 1800, it's very different to the Japanese porcelain I did, or the one you have in the screen. It's very different. It's like it has tactility differences. It sucks the ink in a different way, the glaze in a different way. So it's super sophisticated. It's like a material you can learn and you can stay forever with it.
But you treat it like a surface. I mean, you treat it like a canvas in a sense, right? I mean,
it is. It is like a canvas, but not always. Sometimes I just make shapes out of it, which they're strong already enough without needing to have anything on it. But what I want to say with the materials that you asked me why use it, and the why is because it's very versatile. It's a very interesting material that has a never-ending process to it. Metal, they tell you the 3 techniques and you're done. It doesn't change. Bronze, yeah. Bronze, pouring bronze in New York and putting it in China, it's the same thing. Maybe New York is more expensive than China, but it's the same. Polishing is polishing. But this thing, it's like, the water is different, the earth is different, everything. Yeah. So very interesting process.
Yeah. Yeah, this collection, the Reaction, how do you pronounce Reaction?
Réaction poétique. This is like a French name.
Yeah. Reaction poétique. I recently got my first piece of Jaime Hayon, brought it home, and we're living with one of these. It's a kind of bean-shaped tray that sits on the table. But I was really curious about the origins of this project and how you became acquainted with Cassina.
Well, this is an interesting project because what happens with this is it started with La Fondation Le Corbusier, which had a tree, from the Villa Le Lac in Geneva, which is what's a villa that Le Corbusier did for her mother. And they had a tree and the tree was dead. So they called Cassina to make something out of that tree. So the first edition, I worked with Cassina. So they talked to me, the Fondation Le Corbusier, together with Cassina. They said, "Why, Jaime, we think you can do something with the tree." At the beginning, I thought we could make pencils because the wood was not very good. But then I started to make little birds. I started to think about, shapes that could be interesting. And I wanted to give an homage to Le Corbusier because that tree was really important. It was like a really important part of the house. Yeah. So this is how I started. Everyone loved it so much that they said, you should do more things. The tree's over, but we give you more trees, other trees, which is, and this is actually very interesting because with Cassina, they have a beautiful wood shop. Yeah. So this was a very beautiful project because it combined my work, an homage to Le Corbusier's, form and process. And also at the same time, this idea of being able to work with the craftsmanship of Cassina, which has a very long heritage. So it was beautiful, and it was very successful. Yeah.
It's a wonderful piece. The one in the foreground is the one that we have on the dining table, and it's a kind of pedestal for all of the objects that we use at the dining table. So I guess I'm wondering, were you actively thinking about how these things would be used? Because, I mean, I see that you've made several carrying trays.
I did.
The table, there's also a tray in a sense. I mean, tell us a little bit about how you imagine these inhabiting the home.
Yeah, basically I wanted these pieces to be functional sculptures. Yeah. So that's a little bit the idea, So obviously they're all thought to be like side tables, or small objects in which you can put fruits, for example, the one of the columns talks about the concept of Le Corbusier of layering columns into different floors. But at the same time, I actually went up with the cylinders to create a little bit of, when you put an apple or an orange, that it doesn't go away. Yeah. So it's kind of like this kind of functional concepts. Yeah.
It reminds me a little bit of I'm thinking of the rooftop of the Habitation Unité, right?
Exactly. But this is the kind of subtle comparison I wanted to bring up. It's like an homage. I mean, it was done because of that tree that Le Corbusier had planted for the house. So this was important for me that you could breathe within the project an origin, and a story. And it's what I'm telling you about. I think, designers like us from this generation, we're bringing up that addition of telling stories with our projects. Our projects have to be good. They have to be functional. They have to be beautiful. Obviously, they have to work. But when it works, you can play, and when you play, you can tell stories, and the stories are beautiful because people get in love with the objects. You know,
I mean,
this is
no, it's
important
really
for me.
interesting you
Yeah.
talk about that, because in a lot of ways I see your work directly connected to someone very important to 20th century design, like Philippe Starck, right? Someone who
Mhm.
had a hand in so many different pies, let's say, in design,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah,
brought a very unique style. But on the other hand, there's this approach to the narrative behind the work, which brings this kind of playful character, and
yeah, yeah,
and makes it more dynamic for the 21st century, in a sense, right? Because people are wondering, I think the next generation may not be so interested in objects for objects' sake, but are looking
yeah,
at either what message is being put out. And obviously today the most important messages are around climate change and sustainability, and racial
exactly. Yeah,
equity, diversity, etc. And you're not necessarily dealing with those themes, but you're dealing with this kind of escapism, I suppose, right? So
yeah, 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 yeah.
yeah, I
Well,
mean,
I think I work more like an artist. Actually, I've never really been a designer. Like I'm really an artist. At the end of the day, it's what I do the most. And I just found in design a way in which you can express yourself in a very nice way. It's like these vases. I'm sure if I ask any customer that bought this from Baccarat recently, I'm sure they never put a flower on it. It is, yeah, because this is a beautiful, like,
it's
large
funny. I didn't even
object.
realize it was a vase. I mean, when I
It
see it,
is, it
I
is
see
like
it.
you, and it's actually thought because like you have that little thing that you put the flowers in, and then you get it out. You don't need to empty the vase. Yeah, so
Okay,
only the water goes into the pipe.
okay, okay.
Nobody will put flowers. If somebody put flowers in it, please send it in the Instagram so we can look at it. But at the end of the day, it's just like the excuse to still be an artist and work with design industry, which is absolutely doable. Today, we can do that. And a lot of artists are also like getting into the design world, to make things.
Right,
So
right.
my life is also about painting. It's about bringing my drawings into reality. Actually, I'm doing a next project is like it's like a really like, well, I'm starting to do the art fairs as an artist, not even
Well,
as a designer
well, I'm
anymore.
I'm glad you
So
mentioned that, because I was going to ask you about that. We know that you work with Gallery Creo in design.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
You've
yeah, I
done,
do.
I guess, a couple of exhibitions with Creo,
Yeah,
but
I
do you
did.
actively have representation now as an artist?
I do actually. I mean, I do. I'm starting with it because like the funny thing is like it's I have even some museums that bought my work, but they bought it directly from us. They call us and they said that we want to have you in the collection, and not necessarily with furniture or vases or crystal or tapestries. No, they might want a painting also, or like some museum bought paintings for their. So it's really interesting how this has been happening a lot. But at the same time, also commercial galleries are starting to be very interested because they see me working and painting every day. So they're proposing me, would you like to make an exhibition with us, or can we represent you for example, in the Armory Show, which I'm going to be in, or like in Arco, which is the Spanish fair we
Yeah.
have here, the FIAC in Paris. So this year I will start to be also present in some galleries in different countries. Not so many, obviously, but also with very big ateliers, which have worked with very good artists. So I'm really proud of that and happy about that. So
Tell
why
us
not?
I mean, I'm curious, just looking at these paintings, what are you trying to kind of express? Or, obviously art is up to everyone to interpret individually, but
Yeah.
when it comes to making a painting where you really have no constraints and you can say whatever you want on a canvas, how is this means of representation different than what you might be putting on a carpet, for example?
Yeah. Well, there's always a story behind, like if you go to the image before, for instance, that one I just painted it like and for example, I call it like this is like it's like the boat is sinking and there's all these like guys, they're like really bizarre, and I sort of had a day like that, and I call it like sort of the soul is sinking, yeah, like your soul is sinking into the. So it's very dramatic in a way, there's all these plans and everything, there's deepness on it. The other one might be completely different. So it's not for me, it's very random. I try to like whatever comes into my mind, I just put it into the canvas. But I can also put it into the, into the ceramics. It doesn't matter the
Yeah.
format.
So I'm going to jump ahead to you putting it on fashion.
Yeah.
Which
this is the
a,
last collaboration I did.
yeah, it's a very recent collaboration, and
It
one
is.
that, I mean, I suppose the power of fashion is not just in its immediacy, but in its democracy, right? So all of a sudden,
Exactly.
Jaime Hayon, goes from what could be a tattoo on your arm to a tattoo on everyone's body.
Exactly.
Tell us a little bit about this collaboration. Is this the Zara collaboration, by the way?
Yeah, this is the Zara collaboration. Yeah. Well, Zara is a Spanish company, so like I thought it was very natural that one day maybe this could happen. The funny thing is, like, my work has always been very sophisticated in terms of the collaborations. Unfortunately, because I'm so picky on the quality and everything, my work is not the cheapest in the planet. I'm not so democratic as I would love to be. Yeah. But lately I've been trying to do some democratic things, like this lamp, which doesn't cost so much money, or a t-shirt that you could buy anywhere. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Like with Zara, this was possible. You could have a really nice sweater made in Portugal, and buy it for $40, $50. So it's like a great deal. And that could be free. They didn't do that often. Zara is not a company that does a lot of collaborations. So right. I was also very proud that they called me and that we could work freely and make something fun with color. And it's been very well accepted. It's been a great success. I mean, it was sold in many countries in a week, which was crazy. And I was really happy about it. I could take sketches, like, for instance, that sketch I did in while I'm doing my vacations in Thailand. And I make it in a small sketchbook, and suddenly is what I say. Hey, here's a sketch. Let's try to make it into a sweater. And
so it looks. I mean, is it really a direct translation like that, where you've done
it is,
and then the sketch, you apply it. Okay.
Yeah, and the drawings. Look at the drawings you have there, the black and white drawings that you showed. For instance, they're drawings I made because I wanted to make these tattoos, and which actually I made for myself. Yeah, and well, there you go. Like I said, okay, well, some tattoos I didn't use, like, let's put it into, and one is like like the hole and the love, it's like falling into the hole, or like the there's all these kind of like, there's these double meanings. Yeah. I love the love walking, the walking love, like living. That's actually,
it's incredible. It's really
yeah,
listen, it's been fantastic talking to you, man. I want to see if we can open it up to questions now, if you don't mind.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, why not? Okay. I mean, I saw some questions before, but I don't know, you might take some.
Yeah, I'm gonna stop sharing. By the way, I managed to get one of those hats and a pair of socks.
Good for you.
It's really fun. Perfect for fashion. Let's see. I'm just going to have a quick look through the chat. Going back a bit, we have a lot of hellos from all over the world. Peru, Santo Domingo, etc. Just a second. I've lost it. Okay. Okay, let's see. We have a couple of questions from friends here in New York. Glenn Adamson, my co-host, and I don't know if Glenn, are you out there? Would you like to ask this question directly? Maybe he was on earlier. Oh yeah, there he is. Hey, Glenn.
No, the sound.
Here he comes.
Now.
Here we go. Thanks for being on the show. Great to have you.
Thank you.
I was wondering if you had anything to say about how communication works with a physical object as opposed to a digital one, because it seems to me that people are so used to things talking to them now, our phones, smart technology, and you've always very obviously been interested in characterization and the way that an object can serve as a kind of communicative act as well. And I wonder whether you think that's partly come to you because of the digital environment that we're in, or if you're in some way in dialogue with that set of digital technologies.
Well, this is a really wide question, actually, because like you can interpret this question in many ways. But for me, I think, the way I use the digital technology and the way I use it and interact with the work, it's actually it's actually an experimentation every day, because like I'm not really sure. I think we're, this year we've learned a lot about technology, actually. Like, see us right now. Yeah. Like we started to think that, we thought that we had to travel for everything. And we now suddenly discovered that no, we've got a phone, so we can do anything with it. And it's so precise. So what happens a lot, I think we're having their paradox in between the result of the work, which is physical, to me makes a big difference. Yeah. But the new generations are now getting more and more used to no physicality. Right. People are buying crazy stuff online through a phone, which, I mean, it's crazy. It's amazing. It's like, it's changing the perspective. So I don't know where we're going with that, but I think it's very interesting. The way we're going to interact with our technology and the three-dimensionality and the physicity of the objects and the space, it's going to change dramatically. I think it's all going to be crazy. Like, we're going to have some sort of, well, they already exist, right? Like a lot of people have this how do you call them? Like the glasses, and you start to feel inside and you feel everything perfect.
Yeah, virtual reality,
just like you're in it. Exactly. So I think we're going into somewhere else. Like, for example, a lot of the companies right now, a lot of the galleries, actually, art galleries in some countries are having now these programs. You can place the art and, make photos around, like you already have it there, like perfect. And people are buying this way. So for me, there's a big moment of experimentation with physicity and technology. Now, I use technology for help only, and in a very heavy way. Like the project I showed before in Korea, it was all made online, but there's millions of episodes with phones, like showing me like details and these, and perfectly we could make it in many ways, even board meetings, everything, budget meetings, constructors, crazy. It's like today you can live anywhere.
Well, this is,
I hope I respond the question in a broader way. It's a hard question. I think there's a lot of ways to see it. Yeah.
Glenn, thank you for that. That's a great transition into the next question. Malika Leeper is wondering how the year of living during the pandemic has really changed you. What was gained? What was lost? How has it changed your way of working or your point of view?
I mean, it changed us. I think it changed me a lot, but it changed everyone. I think there's no one that hasn't changed, of this crazy year, and even more longer than a year. First of all, it made me realize that traveling is really important when you have to. And the second thing is that, well, I've realized how much waste of time we have, in many things that are not important, So right now you realize, and everyone should realize, what is the real important thing that you have. Like, for example, I've been more than ever with my kids, for instance, and it's like crazy. I said, and I put myself, I said, thank you for this crazy year, because now I realize I don't have to go out so much,
Yeah.
I love to be with them much more, like I can do a lot of meetings like online. We're actually having a big thing going on right now, and it works perfectly. So there's a lot of ways in which we can see the world in a different angle, but also, nobody thought that we were gonna, it's like nobody thought that this was gonna happen. So right now that we've experienced this crazy year, being locked, being in our cities, or being in our places, I, for example, started to realize I started to have new friends around my block.
Yeah.
I started to know the restaurants and the cafes and the people around me.
You re-engage with the local. Yeah,
exactly. So you suddenly realize what you have. It's like the alchemist. Yeah, you realize what you have. You don't have to go around the world all the time. You've got great places. You've got great weather. You got great stuff around you. So I think it changed our perspective in the way we live, and in the way we work even more.
Yeah.
Jaime,
we have one last question, and it's in Spanish from Ramiro Colinet. Ramiro, are you there? Would you like to ask your question directly in Spanish from Uruguay?
Uruguay.
So can you see that in the chat, Jaime?
If I can see Ramiro?
Can you see the question there in the chat? I don't want to butcher the Spanish. Okay, so
I cannot see it. Are you gonna say it?
This is gonna be really
go on, man. Go on.
Embarrassing.
Oh, yeah, okay. Wait, no, I see Isabel. I see another.
Como general identidad en un país con poca historia y sin vestigios. Vestigizo.
Oh my God.
Generas. ¿Cómo es okay, ¿cómo es Uruguay? Okay, so do you understand that one?
I think he's saying something about like it was really hard to begin. Like, but I think it's like, how do you design and do things in a place that it doesn't have so much heritage and design culture and things like that, right?
Yeah,
like
and he's
Uruguay.
talking about indigenous culture, especially in Uruguay, for example.
Oh, okay. No, what I always say to everyone, I will respond in English because it's better. And like, I think everyone then will understand it. Yeah. But what I would say to this person is like, I think it's really important to observe, what are the qualities of the place you live in, the craftsmanship. There's always, people say, oh, I don't live in Milan, so I cannot make that. I don't live in there. No. Around you, you've got plenty of people that need you, that need a designer, that need an artist, that need somebody to help. You have to find the right synergy. The right guy that knows how to make these things needs a good creative idea to work with you. And the heritage, the crafts, everything around you, the folklore, the inspiration, everything can be something unique for you, and you can make an exception. You can make something an exceptional work. That's what I mean. So sometimes, you have it near. Everyone has the same opportunities at the end of the day.
Well,
so
I don't know about everyone.
Not everyone.
You seem to have more than most, Jaime, for sure. We have.
I don't know, man. I can design anything anywhere in the desert. Man.
We have another question. I guess a final question from Isabel in Madrid.
Isabel, I saw that.
Isabel, are you there? Would you like to speak to Jaime directly?
I don't know if she's there.
Second. So she's asking about dream projects. Is there anything
Yes.
you've
Hola.
There's Isabel. I cannot see her.
Hola. Hi, everyone.
Hola.
Thank you for this opportunity, Stefan. Really, I love your initiative, and to talk directly to Jaime is like a dream. I'm super fan. So my question, Jaime, to you is there any special project that you are dreaming about that you would like to materialize? I mean, maybe it's still in your head, not in your sketches, but I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. Like, there's the funny thing is like, I love the randomness of my life, like the idea of like not knowing where I'm going. At the moment, I'm doing like very crazy different projects, from designing an hotel to working in a painting or a new installation. It's always, so I let the future to tell me, what's going to be the next adventure. I'm not necessarily dreaming about making a boat or like these or the other. Like some designers are having this idea in the mind. I don't have that one. I let the thing to come to me. Yeah, in a way. This is the response, Isabel. Yeah.
Yeah, great. Of course. And I guess in this day and age, everything can come to you without you having to go to it. Jaime, I think that's all we have time for today. It's been incredible talking to you. I really appreciate you joining us here, and it's really good to reconnect, huh? So
yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Stephen. This was fun and very, very good energy. So yeah, let's keep going. And,
absolutely.
Hopefully, we'll see each other soon.
Yeah, man. If you come to New York, give a call, huh?
Yeah, surely I will, man. Like definitely. All right.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
This has been. I think Lucy has a few words. Lucy.